Now, looking at your typical day, what does your typical day look like? Someone want to volunteer and tell me what they do when they first come into work? Any volunteers? What do you do when you first come to work? Check emails. Okay. I guess if I took a survey, that'd probably be the number one answer, right? Everybody check emails first thing? All right, what do you do when you first come in?
Check the production reports and what happened on the shift.
Okay, check the production reports, check what happens. Okay.
Then I go out to the floor, see how everything's going, all different plants, make sure everybody's there and everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Okay.
And then from there I get back to the office and check emails.
Okay, all right, good. So you go out to the floor and then check emails. All right. Anyone else? When you first come to work, what do you do? Cup of coffee. All right, I would say that's probably close to number one, getting a cup of coffee. Right? And of course, some people now stop at Starbucks on the way in and have their coffee for them, right? So they carry it in, so they actually Kaizen their work day. Okay, so coffee's good, yes. Anything else? Check calendar. Now the question that I have is when you look at your typical day, what are some of the elements of your day beyond when you first come in here? What are some of the things you do? Meetings. Meetings are a popular one, yes. All right, we heard checking emails, getting coffee, emails, going out to Gemba, checking the production reports. What else do you do during the day? Check workflow. Okay, absolutely. Now, does anyone get any emails or phone calls that cause you to say, oh, drop everything, got to go do this? Right? Downtime. And what do you do? React, act accordingly, yes. And of course, we call that firefighting, right? All right? How many people got promoted on being a good firefighter? Okay, it's quite a popular way. They're very valuable, right? Someone who can put out fires. Well, I think that that is still a valuable skill, but I'd like you to think a little bit differently with an open mind, saying, how can we prevent the fires from happening in the first place? And I'd rather have people that could prevent fires than ones that are very good at putting them out. Although I know I'm going to have fires, so let's have a few good firefighters. But is our day dictated by when we come in, what that email said or what the phone call is? And we do more reacting. We go through the whole day, and by the end of the day, whew, glad that day's over with. Come in tomorrow, do it all over again. Okay? I'll give you one more chance. Anything else you guys do during the day? Should plan your day. We're going to talk about that, yes. All right, I didn't hear anyone say that till now, that you have to do some planning in your day.
Or even your schedule in general, because there's things that you plan beyond the day.
Okay, yes, because you're going to plan out the week or the month. Okay, set up your schedule. All right, go back to 40 minutes ago. What is our role as a leader? Develop others. Where in all those things that we do every day did I hear we develop somebody? No, it's missing. Although it's one of the key things we need to do as leaders. So think about that. Why don't we have that in our schedule? And what can we do differently? Because it is one of the keys to develop leaders, get the most of our team, get results. We need to have something in our schedule, something we do on a daily basis to develop leaders. How many people do performance reviews? Okay? Typical performance review talks about this is what your goals were, this is how you did against them, this is your raise maybe or not, this is your bonus maybe or not, and these are the things you need to work on, right? Pretty much. Do you spend most of your time reviewing what happened in the past than you do about the future in a review? Or do you talk about what you need to work on? Do you have a section in your review where it's personal development, things you have to do? How many people spend time writing that, put it in a review, and when's the next time you look at it? Next review. Okay, again, to the point. One of the roles that we need to do is develop people. We don't want it to make it the fourth or fifth element in our review appraisal process system that we don't look at all year. Something we need to look at daily. And I'll teach you a couple things that I think will help you do that. So, next question. Are you working in the system or on the system? When you check the production reports, when you go to Gemba, when you check to see what problems there are on the shop floor, you firefight. Are you working on the system or in the system? In. Working in the system. You're trying to get production out, hopefully at the lowest cost, hopefully in the best delivery, hopefully that you get it at the best quality, right? That's what we're trying to do. Top quality, lowest cost, on time, make the customer happy, right? So we're all focused on what we need to do to jump in to make sure that happens. Well, I'm asking us also, besides developing leaders, step back. What time in your schedule do you have set where you're actually working on the system, where you actually have time for Kaizen, where you actually want to, how do I make something better in my system versus just getting it through my system? Where in our calendars and schedules do we have that? Does anyone have time where they put 30 minutes, blocking out 30 minutes to do Kaizen? Okay, that's another thing we need to look within our schedule. So, based on what we've been talking about here are typical daily activities that we do. We mentioned meetings, emails, reports. Maybe you're going to work on a presentation you have to do. You got phone calls, planning, and firefighting. That pretty much covers a lot of the things that we already talked about. What is usually missing are these elements. Where have you put in a Gemba walk? Although we did hear someone do that. Where do we put in our audit system? Where do we spot check? Where do we go and check visual reviews of the process? Where do we put into our calendars that we're going to do some problem solving? Although we probably don't have it in our calendar, we do actually solve problems part of our firefighting. Where do we put into our calendar that we actually do Kaizen? That we're going to work on improving, making something better in our business? And where do we put in training and personal development and developing others? This needs to be in our schedules on a daily basis, because that's what we have already established as a role of a leader that we need to do. If it's in our calendar, we'll do it. So that's what we need to set up. Now, thinking about this, how full is our bucket? You're probably thinking that, my gosh, Mike, you're already doing so much stuff now, you're going to add all this other stuff, a whole list of stuff I got to add into my calendar. Right? Are you anyone thinking that? Be honest. Okay. I've got enough junk to do that now this guy's coming here telling me all this extra stuff. Anybody here have read or seen Stephen Covey's talk about the bucket? Are you familiar with it? He's got a demo that he talks about his bucket. And he said the things that we do in our day is like a bucket. Our bucket's only so big. I am not asking you to get a bigger bucket, which usually means overtime and weekends. Okay? Same size bucket, same amount of time. I'm not asking you to remove some of the rocks, although that may be an opportunity. What I want you to do is focus on what you do during the day and realize that there are big rocks and small rocks. And one of the demonstrations he does is he puts this bucket out in front of everybody and says, all right, we're going to pour in all these big rocks. Is the bucket full? And then most people would say, well, no, maybe, yes, it's full. Then he takes these smaller rocks and pours it in and gets a few more rocks in it. Is it full? No, he comes back with some sand, pours it in, and he gets that to the top. Is it full? Most people at this point would say yes. Then he comes back with a little water and gets a little bit more. So as things get really fine, smaller activities, you can fit more into your bucket. But the bucket's only so full, so we're not asking you to fill up your bucket any more than it already is. But one of the keys that you have to realize is, in order for this to work, what if you did it in reverse order? Once you fill that water up in the bucket, it gets full. Now, what happens when you put sand in it? It overflows. What happens when you put small rocks in it? What happens when you put the big rocks in? Okay? Things going all chaotic, going all over the place, probably like your day. Okay? And that's typically how our days are. We worry about the water and the sand and the firefighting. Of course, water works great for firefighting, right? But we forget the big rocks. We can't get them in our bucket. So let's look at what he says and let's put our big rocks in first. Let's put stakes in the ground, put our big rocks in our bucket first, and then put the smaller stuff in. So what are our big rocks? What are big rocks to us? What is? Production. So, and we equate production into what metric? What's one of the metrics in Lean that we look at? Delivery. That's a big rock, absolutely. What's another big rock? Okay, breakdowns. Cost. Making it to tack time, so that's delivery. Quality. Okay, those are the big ones. There's another big one. No? Safety. Yes, safety is a big one. Making sure that everybody's safe. So those are our big rocks. So are we putting into our schedules big rocks? Are we working on that on a daily basis? Or are we letting all that firefighting, all that water, taking up most of our bucket? That's what we need to look at. So we're not asking you to add more to it. We're asking you in the order that you put it in and how you set priorities. Okay. Here's a typical team leader standard work. You got some startup meetings, potentially have a review of the labor plan. One of the key things that you want to do if you're a team leader is, who's here? Who can I put on what job? And what happens when I don't have someone here, that they're out? Where am I going to get help? How am I going to get my line running? So a labor plan is important starting off. You monitor the startup. You may have a Gemba walk with your supervisor. You have some improvement tasks to do. You may have some time that you have some Kaizen, which you should do. Things you do multiple times a day. Check standard work. Check the process. You want to update the performance and tracking charts. Monitor your stops. Talk to another operators and train them. Now, typically when you have a team leader, about 80% of your calendar should be full. If you're an hourly employee working on the line, how much of your calendar should be full? Yeah, close to 100 is possible, right? Because you have a tack time, a standard that they do. So standard work of an hourly employee is different than standard work of a management person, okay? Because they're tied to the actual process. They add value. So we'd like to have them at 100% working on the standard. Now the standard for a leader, we have 80%. Why is it 80% for a team leader and not 100? Yes, we have to have some room for fire. Things come up. You have some flexibility in your schedule. So that's why you don't have it at 100%. So if you look at your calendars and it's 100%, what is the percentage chance that you're going to get all your things done? I'd say 0. Yeah, 0 chance. If you have no flex in your calendar, you have 100% full, 0. So the first lesson is don't fill up your calendar 100%. Put some slack time in it. As you go up into the leadership roles, more slack should be put in. So when you go to a supervisor, maybe it's 50%, maybe it's 60%. But you have tasks that you do every day, once a day, tasks you do multiple times a day. And what you want to do is have some slack time in your schedule, all the way up to president of the company. Okay? Now here's a typical checklist. It can be any format. You can have Outlook. You can do it on your computer. You can have a piece of paper that you do. You can have a planner that you carry around. But the key is that you should know what your big rocks are, set them in your schedule, and use this just like an hour-by-hour chart and set up this is how we want to follow a process. Okay? One of the things you like to put on there is you can use red and green. Green meaning what? You did it, complete. Red meaning, oops, something went wrong. So you can have the power of red and green, absolutely. And then you can have a section in there, why didn't you make what you planned on doing? Why couldn't you do something? What was your interruption? What was the problem? Just like on an hour-by-hour chart, your comment section, what is the issue? What is the problem? What came up? So in any format you're comfortable with, there is no one right way. And then you want to go through a process where you carry this around with you every day. So you should have a hard copy with you, so you can keep notes, keep track, especially if you have people working under you, you can use it for follow-up. And then typically you want to review this. So the process is you want to develop people. Remember, that's one of the roles that we want to do. This is a great tool built in to help you coach and mentor. Because what we're going to do is link it, every single leader in your company, president on down, should have leader standard work. Everyone should have it on a piece of paper. Everyone should have it planned and should know what they did against their plan, actual to expected. Basically like an hour-by-hour chart. That's what leader standard work is. Now, the built-in coaching is where you can use that to coach someone through the process for your development.